Part 1. Camp Ashmere. When I first arrived at Camp Ashmere, it smelled of wet pine and something older, something sour buried under the soil. I wasn't a counsellor or a camper. I was here on an artist's retreat, an experimental program, they said. Find inspiration in nature, the brochure promised. I mostly sculpt in clay, faces usually, but lately my work felt hollow. I needed something real. The camp was abandoned during the week. Only a few other artists drifted between the cabins. I chose the old maple cabin near the lake. The boards creaked underfoot, the walls tattooed with names and dates, many scratched in deep. On the second day, I wandered the grounds with my camera. Later, when I reviewed the photos, I noticed something strange. Behind the mess hall, a group of people standing perfectly still. They weren't there when I took the shot. I zoomed in. Their faces were blank, pale like unpainted masks. Their hands pointed toward the woods. At first, I laughed it off. A glitch, maybe a trick of the light. But when I stepped outside to smoke, I found new footprints in the dirt, leading straight into the forest. Part 2. The Black Altar. I followed the prints without thinking, the trees swallowing me in their crooked arms. The summer night was warm, but the deeper I went, the colder the air became. The footprints grew heavier, frantic, as if the owners were stumbling. Eventually, they ended at a clearing I hadn't seen on any of the camp maps. In the center stood a crude altar of black stone, slick with moss. A ring of old photographs surrounded it, weathered Polaroids, half buried in the dirt. My heart pounded. Curiosity burned hotter than fear. I snapped a picture of the altar, the flash slicing through the darkness. The screen flickered. When the photo loaded, my breath caught. Behind the altar stood the same blank-faced figures. Closer now, their features slightly more human. I jerked around, but the clearing was empty. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I gathered a few Polaroids, stuffing them into my jacket, and bolted back toward camp. Branches clawed at me, leaving angry red trails on my arms. When I finally reached Maple Cabin, the front door stood ajar, though I was certain I'd locked it. Inside, the smell of wet soil was overwhelming. Part 3. Faces in the clay. I locked the door behind me and set the Polaroids on the work table. They showed kids, counselors, even if adults, every face blurred or scratched away. Some had dates scrawled in pen. July 1973. August 1985, always summer months. I turned to my sculpture, a face I'd started shaping that afternoon. My stomach lurched, the features had shifted, the blank clay had moulded itself into one of the blurred faces from the Polaroids. It wasn't my hand that had shaped it. I stumbled back, knocking over the camera. It clattered across the floor, snapping a photo. The instant image floated out with a soft mechanical whir. When I picked it up, my heart dropped. It showed me, standing over the clay, but behind me was one of the pale figures from the clearing. Closer now, smiling. I didn't dare turn around. I grabbed my car keys and ran out the door, not bothering to pack. The woods seemed to lean inward, trees squeezing the road tight. When I reached my car, it sat on 4 flat tires, scratched into the driver's side window in shaky letters. Stay until you're finished. Part 4. The Gathering. I should have run into the woods, into the lake, anywhere. But something, fear, exhaustion, whatever they'd done to me, dragged me back to the cabin. I bolted the door and piled chairs against it. The clay sculpture grinned at me from the table. No, not at me. Past me. The temperature dropped. My breath came out in misty clouds. Outside, I heard the shuffle of feet, the crackle of dry leaves. I didn't need to look to know. They were gathering around Maple Cabin. I ripped the Polaroids from the table and threw them into the fire pit. But the flames wouldn't catch. The photos curled but didn't burn. My camera blinked red, low battery, but I managed one last shot out the window. When it developed, my stomach twisted. The figures were closer. And now, in their midst, was another figure. Me, frozen in their circle. Mouth stretched in a silent scream. I dropped the camera and stumbled back, hitting the sculpture. Its clay mouth opened, and a hoarse whisper crawled out. One more face. I turned toward the door, just as the first pale hand slipped between the boards, reaching blindly for me. Part 5. Ashmere's Price. I don't remember falling. Only the sharp sting of cold earth against my cheek, and the weight of unseen hands pressing me down. I tried to scream, but my mouth filled with dirt, thick and bitter. The last thing I saw before my eyes shut was the Polaroids, lifting themselves off the table, hovering in the air like moths. When I woke, it was morning. The camp looked normal, empty cabins, chirping birds, the smell of pine, but the world felt thinner, like stretched plastic about to snap. I stumbled back to the clearing, drawn there like a sleepwalker. The black altar remained, but now a fresh ring of Polaroids circled it. I found mine easily. My face blurred out, scratched into oblivion. In the distance, more artists were arriving for the next session, suitcases in hand, smiles on their faces. They wouldn't see it coming. Just like me, the camp demands faces to fill its photographs, clay for its twisted art. And me? I'm still here, trapped in snapshots, hollowed out, waiting for the next one, to hear the whispers, to finish the work, to stay until they're finished.